because we will have,
Okay, now we have to behave ourselves.
now you
Yes,
have to behave yourself.
I'm glad we always get a warning first.
Yes.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
comes up on here, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't used to do that, but
Hmm.
I think they got a lot of legal flack about it.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot of mistakes, I think,
Yeah.
happened because of not doing that.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do when we get on Facebook, I'd just like to, say a couple of words of introduction and welcome, and then go into the prayer. And then I'd like to just, I hope, spend not more than about the time of a decent homily, maybe a little bit more than that. Those are faithful words. Um,
by your
Yeah,
definition.
we know.
Yeah, I
We
think
know.
everybody's
Those of us, we
definition is
know.
different on
But
that.
giving a little kind of some introductory comments to how I perceive and how I think that there are areas in what the U.S. bishops are saying about the Eucharist, even the alarmism about whether people believe in the real presence or not. Give a little bit of my perspective, which comes, it's been based on 50 years of living Vatican II. And I think a lot of the US bishops are less than integrated with Vatican II.
Hmm.
I don't
They
know.
were
if
babies probably when that was happening,
Yeah, exact. Well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
part of the problem.
But that's really not part of the problem. To be brought up in the wake of Vatican II, but not having assimilated it. That's the problem.
Exactly,
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
problem.
yeah.
That's Barron's problem.
Yeah,
Because
well,
he-
that's what I mean. It hasn't been,
Yeah.
integrated enough
Yeah.
into, how revolutionary it was, but how necessary.
Mhm. So I'm going to go live on Facebook, setting up the,
Now we really have to behave.
Yes, I have to sit up straight now.
Yeah, right,
exactly.
really. Let me get my act together.
okay, we are now live on Facebook. So welcome everybody who is on Facebook, who is joining us. It may take a few minutes for people to begin to join. I'm going to, the thing that I'm also going to need to do. Now live on Facebook, so welcome. Okay, I cut off the, we have two people. I cut off the sound on my computer, so I won't be hearing that. We all won't be hearing the same thing 10 seconds delayed. So there are 3 people on Facebook now.
Hmm.
So God bless you all and welcome to you. I'm very happy that you're able to join us. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to have a bit of a lively discussion with
What is that?
I don't know. I'm getting feedback from somebody or other.
I'm fine. I don't hear anything.
Okay,
Yeah,
now I think we're okay.
Okay,
So once again, welcome. So the live stream has stopped. And now if Susan wants to remind us of what time it is, she'll have to ask for admission into the room.
yes.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I will say as, Eucharistic minister as well, that I never really did like people dipping the bread into the wine, because at the end, when we were the ones who were supposed to swish it around and drink it,
Uh-oh.
and there was little particles everywhere,
Oh,
I used to just have to close my eyes.
that's what a sacrarium is for. You know what a sacrarium is, right? And this every sacristy has a sacrarium.
Yeah, well, it's,
Into the ground with it, you know. You couldn't
yeah,
just,
Mm.
yeah. I never really liked that part anyway, but when, after you get it and you look at it and it's like,
yeah, it's stupid. I mean, it's not right. I mean, here's where sanity goes out the window, you know? And you know, we have the parish that I served in Hollywood, St. Thomas the Apostle, very high Catholic and Anglo-Catholic. And there were, the custom there was it's holier to receive on the tongue, you know, the old style like we used to. And that's such garbage. I mean, it's holier really to hold out your hands and for Jesus to come into your hands. If
I
you want to
much
say what's
prefer the
holy.
hand
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. But I mean,
myself.
there's this
We are now
false.
streaming on live,
Oops.
live on Facebook. Okay, sorry about that.
The voice of experience. Anyway, but these are these funny little things. In the pandemic, the safest thing, as our bishop has said, instructed the lay Eucharistic minister. Actually, it's only the priest doing it now, and at least in most of our parishes, to drop it, quotes, drop it into the hand. Don't even press it into the hand. Some priests would do that. Drop it into the hand, and then it's the person goes back to their place, takes their mask off and can consume it. But it's we have to be sensible about the sacraments. You know, just and sometimes sensibility and reason go out the window in favor of tradition or what some people misguidedly think is holier than something else, which is
Right.
nuts. You
Mhm.
know.
Well, and I mean, just in my Bible study the other day, we were a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if I mentioned this, there was a girl who said, you know, and it's all people's level of their own religious education that takes, you know, what people, these things that people believe or they grew up with. And she was saying, oh yeah, you know, I grew up with the idea that if you showed up after the gospel, you couldn't go to communion. And of course, you know, in my radicalness, I just said to her, I just totally debunked it. And I, you know, for her, because it's sort of like that's kind of a naive thing that, you know, people have ideas about that just make me crazy.
Well, we were taught in the seminary, if once the chalice veil was removed from the you know, from the vested chalice, if you came in after that, you were done for. I mean, you could not receive, and when you'd have to go to another mass, which you know, was invalid, which is the same kind of philosophy.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I had never heard of it. I had never known that unless maybe, you know, I'd forgotten it at some point in my
I
own.
just remember having to make sure if we were dropped off for mass as kids, we had to make sure we brought a bulletin home so they knew we actually went. And it wasn't until later on we figured out we could have just walked in, grabbed one and went.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of kids do that.
And the other thing that I noticed or that I thought was really interesting, going to mass here in Colorado at the church we go to, is that, again, growing up, we always had to wear a headpiece, right? I remember pinning it on in the morning and the whole bit. And then again, at some point in time that went away, and the only ones
That's
that you
because
ever
St. Paul
saw
told
doing
you
that.
so.
What's that?
That's because St. Paul told you so.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
And-
But he
Well, there
said,
was,
you know,
there was, you know, after that, the only people you really saw doing that still was much older women, right? That were, you know, grew up that way, and they were still, you see the little old ladies with them.
Yeah.
But at our parish, I just thought it was really interesting. There's one person that is there every week and wears that little kind of veil. And she's got to be, I'd say maybe in her early 20s, maybe.
no,
And I thought that was just so interesting. Like, it just kind of stuck out to me that somebody that young was was
No,
still.
it's a throwback for the younger generation. I've seen it at the Korean churches here. I see it at OLA now. And when I was at Holy Name this past weekend, I mean, there were a couple women. I mean, it's a very, I hate to be, marginalized about it, but it's a very
Trendy? Is it-
No, well, it's a
Oh, Hispanic. I thought you were gonna say trendy.
No, it's a Hispanic practice, I think, in many ways, but it's also like the Korean churches, because, I mean, somebody told me once too, is that a lot of the Asian churches are still enmeshed in Vatican I and haven't even decided that Vatican II even exists. I mean, I'm being very,
Well, no, and I
Extreme about
agree
it,
that, I would, I mean, especially when we were going to OLA, I would see a lot more of the Hispanic women wearing that. But this is just a Caucasian, younger
Yeah.
girl, and it just kind of struck me. So I always kind of see her sitting there and always very reverent, very, into the mass. But it was just interesting to me to see
Yeah.
that after so many years and not looking at an older woman.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 I always
No,
felt
and
like I was putting a
I've done,
doily on my head.
yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of research on the whole veiling thing. And I mean, it's, I mean, even, I don't know if it was Paul or Tertullian who was describing what was going on in the churches and said, oh yeah, well, the women should be veiled because that was Roman custom to make sure that you were a pure woman and, were married or whatever. And it was the prostitutes that didn't veil their heads. And yet it was one of the two that just said, well, but the custom is that sometimes women do show up without a veil, and that's okay too. So, it just, you have both. Again,
Or
it's that,
the not showing your arms, is that still at the Vatican? Like you should wear,
Mm.
you should not have.
I don't think that's being enforced these days.
Hmm.
But I think they still want you to be modest.
right.
Well, yeah, I agree.
Don't show up in a jean vest.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, shall we call it a morning?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So God bless you. And as you know, this will all our before, very short before and a little bit longer after will be also available to the team members. But
Thanks for your work on this, Tom.
Yes.
Yeah,
There's
that's
a lot of,
Thank
A
you to
lot of-
all of you. I learned a lot today.
good,
good.
good. Well, we'll see what
Really good.
happens next week.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
good.
God bless you all and have a good day.
You too.
likewise.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Okay. Have a good week.
You too.